Pictured here are the Mi Casa apartments, where I lived between the years 1989 and 1993. Um, in 1991 or 1992, I was hanging out inside. I was alone, and I came outside to get some fresh air. And I looked up and I saw what's pictured here, this strange wire going across the sky. Um, I couldn't believe it, and it fascinates me to look at it right now. But I don't know what in the world could have been holding that wire up, because there's no structures that high in Albuquerque, and it was about 300 feet in the sky, maybe as low as 150 feet. But I was either 20 or 21 years old at the time. I remembered that I had my camera with film in it inside. I ran and got it. It was an old 70s Pentax camera. Took this picture. To this day, I don't know what this is. But recently on the Sandy Diva Mandela Effect channel, Sandy reported on similar sightings that have happened in the past. And I want to show this video. This is going to last about 8 minutes. Just listen to this, you guys. This is the blockbuster that I promised. The blockbuster news story is this, that I'm not the only one who's reported things like this. Wires in the sky, strings in the sky.
Getting back to normalese. Normalese
is YouTuber. People are LJ. I know, seriously. All right, this one is not a Mandela. I just want to share this because I like this story and I haven't covered it in a long time. Oh, this is an update. Shoot. Well, let me tell you what happened. Apparently, it was on the news. It was in the newspaper and on the news. Okay, that a silver thread just dangled from the sky, attached to nothing. Here it is in the paper. The original article said it snapped off. The update says it ended and was attached to nothing. And they were saying it was Martians.
Martians, I'm sure.
But this happened in New Jersey. Huh? I don't know if we should even show this now because it's an update. I thought it was the full thing. It's not.
Why does all the weird stuff happen in Jersey?
I don't know.
Yeah, you can't even pump your own gas.
I mean, you can go on and see if there's anything descriptive there, but is this the story?
I don't know.
Yeah, it looks like.
Oh, this is it. All right, so here we go. Eventually, a group of neighborhood kids managed to snag the mystery thread out of the sky by casting a fishing line up to it.
This is the aircraft carrier shelter you seized, previously owned by a small faction of about 800 people.
The thread was pulled down from the heavens, buckets full of it, and sent off to DuPont for analysis, but the company could not determine its origins. Fast forward to a couple of years ago, Mark something and I were in Denville at the Rattlesnake Ranch for an appearance on a live broadcast of Rob Moorhead's Big Greasy Breakfast radio program on WDHA-FM. We were hanging out in the bar drinking coffee when a man named Jeff, who appeared to be about 40, approached us to offer his compliments on the magazine. Thanks a lot, we said, then asked the man. So what's weird where you live? Nothing, he replied, adding, you don't know any good stories about Caldwell, do you? Caldwell, New Jersey, is where Rutgers is in like the original Rutgers campus. Let's see. Well, there was that mysterious thread hanging from the sky back in 1970 we offered. Oh my God, I was one of the kids who pulled the thread down out of the sky. I haven't thought about that in years, he said excitedly. Of course we didn't believe him. Not for a second. Not at first, anyway. But then we quizzed him on his knowledge of the event, and his story all added up. He was the right age to have been about 11 years old at the time of the incident in question. He knew the exact address of the house the thread hung over, and the names of the people who lived there at the time. I grew up on Forest Avenue, just up the street from that house, he said. My mother still lives there. After the thread was hanging there for about a week, so mind you, there was a silver thread hanging in the sky from nowhere for about a week,
Weird.
attracting all kinds of crowds. Me and my buddies decided to pull it down. I got a fishing rod and just kept casting until we snagged it from midair over the house. When we got a hold of it, we just kept pulling it, and it just kept coming down out of nowhere. Then it stopped, and we found the end. There wasn't anything holding it on the other end. It was just coming out of nowhere. They took it from us and sent it off to some lab somewhere for testing. And that's the last any of us ever heard about it. Geez, now I wish I had saved some of it as a souvenir. And this guy didn't think there was anything weird about Caldwell. Just goes to show you, sometimes you can be so close to something that you don't recognize it for the weird thing that it is. And that's what we say about the Mandela effect. Sometimes you aren't affected by it because you're too close to it, which is weird. And then other times, you're super affected by it because you're so close.
Okay, I don't want to interrupt much, but I do have to say this is a weird phenomenon where something crazy happens right in front of you and you don't even really recognize how weird it is until later. For example, I took that photograph of that wire in the sky back in 91 or 92. And I've been doing this show for a few years now, talking about outside the box things, and I've never brought this up until now. So, interesting.
To it. It's just weird. We get like blindness to it because we know it too well. I think we take updates because we see the new version. But yeah, that's the story. A silver thread hung in the sky in New Jersey for over a week. It was on the news. There were news articles. It was on the radio. Well documented. It just hung from the sky for a week. Oh, and there was a thunderstorm blew through, and the thread didn't move in the storm. That was the other weird thing. A silver thread hung in the sky for over a week, attached to nothing, and didn't move during a thunderstorm. And when they pulled it out of the sky, nothing was attached to it. So
That's nuts.
that's all.
I've never heard of that. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's cool though. I wish I would have been the one to find it.
No way. Pushin says Joe Martinez, Joe in New Mexico, recently did a show on a picture that he took about 1990. It was a cable above his apartment that was impossible to be there. I need to see that now. That is craziness. Thank you. Thanks for letting me know, Pushin.
Do you have pictures of it?
This wasn't the only report. There are reports of Native American stories of this happening with beings climbing up and down the ropes.
What?
3 cases are cited, all in America in the 1970s. Caldwell, New Jersey, August 1970. Elberton, Georgia, mid-June 1972. And Greensburg, Ohio, September 1978. So this thread hanging from the sky going to nowhere has happened at least 3 times, And Native Americans have stories of this happening with beings climbing up and down the roads.
Okay, this is fascinating, people. And if you're interested in this, you might want to write down these 3 cases. Caldwell, New Jersey, 1970. Alberton, Georgia, 1972. Greensburg, Ohio, 1978. And of course, Albuquerque, New Mexico, 1991 or 92. Can't remember exactly when.
Okay, Spider, go on.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Get reading the chat.
Location 2 has no real info, but the other location, Alberton, Georgia, is interesting. There really isn't info on that event either, but it's interesting because that is the location of the Georgia Guidestones that exploded. So that's where the Georgia Guidestones were, and that's where a silver thread also hung in the sky, coming from
Interesting.
nowhere.
It didn't just explode. They blew it up.
Well, yeah.
Because it proved flat Earth.
Splatter, can you grab this link from Pushing Buttons and then send it to me on Messenger, please?
Then
Or
send-
wait a minute, Pushing, can you just send that to me on Messenger, please?
Yeah, that probably cut out the middleman, wouldn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, it would. Yeah, thank you. Pushing says I'll send it to you also. Thank you.
Yeah. I mean, not that I want to be cut out, but it just makes it easier.
Yeah.
Jack and the cream stock.
Okay, we can go on.
Okay, yeah, I was just.
Hi, my name is Arina, and I would like you to give you a few reasons why you should consider dating a young Slavic lady. You can choose.
The secondhand account of people on a cruise have seen something similar. And other comment trying to explain it away with a picture of glowworms, saying it could have been the new aurora, which we're going to talk about tonight. So just go on. Oh, wait. You know what?
That's
Just
cool.
go on. You know what? We're just going to take this down because we're going to be talking about that. It's one of the links I sent you.
Oh, stop this.
Yep. I already, yep.
Okay, stop. Now what?
You got links. You got like 4 or 5 of them.
Yeah, which one? I think that was the one I grabbed there, I believe.
Okay. So that's the blockbuster that I promised, the blockbuster news story. I was absolutely blown away, people, when I heard that report that I just showed you. And I want to thank Pushing Buttons for letting me know that Sandy reported that. It's interesting, people. It's interesting because, again, I've never seen anything like this in my life. It's absolutely fascinating. What in the world could have been holding up that wire? Again, this photo was taken in 1991 or 1992. Now, in those news stories, those other reportings that Sandy reported on, in one of them, the police. Okay, Sandy reported on a string that was coming down vertical from the sky, and this string right here is going horizontal. Now, when I looked into those other stories, those 3 stories, Alberton and Caldwell and Greensburg, in one of those stories, the wire was going horizontal, like it is here in this photo. And in that story, it was reported that police actually got in their car and followed that wire. And they reported that it sounded like they drove about 20 miles and the wire just kept on going and going and going. Endless. I regret not getting in my car with the camera at this time and following it, so to speak. You can imagine my excitement to take my film to Fox Photo and and get this thing developed. But I'm grateful that I had film in my camera at the time, and I was able to snap this picture. But this is one of the craziest things I've ever seen in my life. Just look at that. So, you guys, this is a blockbuster. This is gigantic. People, there's something up there. There's something up there that's physical. I'm not the only person who's seen these strange things. There's something up there, people. There's wide speculation that there's some kind of dome or a ceiling and roof up there. I've always been quick to point out that there's no real proof of a dome. And I've speculated often that everything is infinite. It just goes on forever. But I can't unsee this thing. I can't I can't put aside what I've seen with my own eyes. There's something up there, people. Now, I know people in this community that would say that well, things that happen in the sky aren't even in this dimension. A lot of things that we see in the sky are happening on a parallel Earth, some kind of interdimensional business. And I'll check the chat in a minute. People, dimensional or not, there's something up there. There's something up there. We have no idea what this is. I call it a wire because I don't know what else to call it. But, it might not be a wire. Who knows what this thing is? Who knows what those other things were that were reported in Caldwell, Alberton, and Greensburg? Okay. Jared, I discovered this in the afternoon, as you can see by the photo, and I kept an eye on it that whole evening, and it didn't go anywhere. When it got dark, it was no longer visible. You couldn't see it. And I just knew that the next morning when I looked, it would be gone. And I was right. It was gone the next day. It was removed under the cover of darkness. And I never saw it again. So it was just there for that day. Now, I received a comment from GT Mustang. And GT has seen something like this himself. What he saw, he described as some kind of what he felt was a track. And he saw an object moving on it that was invisible, yet you could kind of see it. And that reminded me of the original Predator movie. I think you guys know what I mean. But GT pointed out that the one that he saw was going north-south, exactly north-south. And I can't remember if he said in one of those directions or both, there was national parks nearby. Now, it's interesting because this wire that I saw in Albuquerque is going what looks to be exactly east-west, 90 degrees east, 270 degrees west. The western edge of Albuquerque is bordered by the Petroglyphs National Park, the national monument. So there's a connection there. GT seems to think there's a grid of these things, but it's interesting. It's going exactly east-west. As I said, to the west is the Petroglyph National Monument. To the east is Kirtland Air Force Base. And this photo is taken about 2 miles from Kirtland Air Force Base. But again, there's no structure on the base that tall. So what in the world is this? People, this is a blockbuster. There's something up there. Now, the last couple of years, I've been talking a lot about how Antarctica doesn't exist. The world is provably flat and probably infinite. Now, that's a mind blower that I brought to the table. Now I'm bringing another mind blower to the table, people. This needs to be looked at. This needs to be thought about. This is a blockbuster. There's something up there. There's physical evidence. Now, yeah. 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 You're right, JJ. And I was, like I said, I'm grateful. There was film in the camera. Another thing I want to say about that day is, as I said, I was home alone and I went outside for some fresh air, but it didn't feel like other times when I lived there and I would go out for fresh air. And for real people, I'm going to use the word compelled. Something compelled me to go outside that day and look up and see this. and we hear that a lot in stories of unidentified objects in the sky. It's not uncommon for people who report these things to report that something compelled them to go outside and look up in the sky. So, I mean, that's powerful language. I almost don't want to really say that something compelled me to go outside and look up in the sky. But what luck that when I needed a breath of fresh air, I went outside and looked up at the sky, and lo and behold, look. Also, people, let's think about synchronicities and how finally I decided after all these years to dig up this photo because it was in storage, and start talking about it on my show. Now, just a couple weeks after I reported this, which would have been a few weeks ago, Sandy Diva, shout out to Sandy, by the way. Thank you and God bless you for all the reporting that you do. And it's interesting and synchronistic that Sandy came out and said, I want to report on this again, because she had before, apparently. And I didn't know about that. But she reported just a few weeks within the last few weeks, she reported on these 3 reported sightings. Caldwell, New Jersey, 1970, Alberton, 1972, Greensburg, 1978. So this has been spotted before by other people, you guys. And now that I've reported on this and Sandy has reported on this, and now people hopefully will think about this from time to time. Now that the cat's out of the bag, my prediction is we're going to see more reportings of this in modern times. We're going to see more people seeing this and reporting on it. That's my prediction, because that's how the world is. Now that it's out there, it's in the air now. These thoughts are in the air. As I've said so many times, our greatest weapon, our imaginations. Imagine a perfect world and it'll arrive. It doesn't happen night and day. It doesn't happen cut and dry like that. It's not that simple. It won't happen the next day, that is to say. But it will happen. Imagine a perfect world and it'll happen. Our imaginations are our greatest weapons. But this is a blockbuster, people. There's something up there. I don't know that it's a ceiling or a dome. I don't know what it is, but there's something up there. And I would encourage everybody to watch my most recent live show before this one and my most recent video, which is called One of the Strangest Things I've Ever Seen. And I talk about this. So yeah, I'm going to be kind of harping on this, but I'm only going to be coming at you guys like once a month or something like that. Right now, God wants me to make music. So, and another thing is that I don't remember telling anyone about this at the time. I can't remember who, if anyone, I spoke to. And I have a strong memory, and and we are being shown things that are incredible, people. We are. These are such wild and crazy times. Earlier tonight I was listening to my favorite radio show, the Knuckleheads. They come on every Wednesday night for 3 hours, and they played "She's Got to Be Somebody's Baby. She's got to be somebody's baby. She's so fine." And I recorded it on my mixtape. So this is footage that I shot on my Jackson Brown. Very, very cool. It's a very cool song. Well, my camera is just my Samsung 8-inch tablet, kind of a cheap camera. But you see that flickering object there in the middle? That's an orb going across the sky. Just before I came on, people, I was outside looking at the stars, and it's incredible. There's so much activity between 4 and 5 a.m. Look up at even for half an hour. I was only there for like 20 minutes, 25 minutes, and I saw like a good 8 orbs going across the sky. There's so much activity at that time in the morning. Be, between all the activity of orbs in the sky and all the shifts of reality that are happening around us, you guys, this world is changing at a breakneck pace, and it is not the world we grew up in. I don't know if the world has changed or we've gone to different worlds, shifted. I don't know what. Gotta be somebody's only light, gonna shine tonight. Yeah, she's gotta be somebody's baby tonight. One more quarter. Welcome. And speaking of shifts that go on, I reported last time about gold-colored ants, like jewelry gold, shiny gold-colored ants that are part of our reality and always have. Another thing that blew my mind recently, I'm going to tell you about 2 Mandela effects that totally blew my mind as we look at the helicopters going over my house. Or maybe both. Yeah, good point. Okay, I'm going to start with the number one mind blower. This one blew my mind, and this one is a blockbuster. Let me ask you guys something. What gas is the most common gas in the air that we breathe? That is to say, the air that we breathe is predominantly made up of what gas? And you can answer if you're inclined, but if you're not, then we'll consider this a rhetorical question. No, I'll give you the answer in a second. What gas makes up most of the air that we breathe? What gas makes up most of the air that we breathe? Now, all my life, I always knew it was oxygen. That's what we were taught. Okay, but in this reality, people, it is nitrogen. 78% of our air is nitrogen. Okay. Nice strategy, JJ. Nice strategy. You passed the test, by the way. Um, yeah, you guys, growing up, I always knew that it was oxygen. And I remember it being like 83% oxygen. And when I learned that, I remember thinking, I would have thought it would be closer to 100% oxygen. Air is oxygen. That's what we were taught. Yes, nitrogen. You were just going to say that, right? Yeah, it's a trip out. And of course, this footage is from the Call for Zero channel. Absolutely. All right, it's time for jokes and junk. If anyone has a one-liner or a two-liner, feel free to put it in the chat. Keep it clean, and I like them corny. And you don't have to tell a joke. I'll tell them. I got 2 of them. Here's the first joke. 2 fish are in a tank. One says to the other, "How do you drive this thing?" All right, all right. How many ears does Spock have? 3. The left ear, the right ear, and the final front ear. Yeah. And I'm going to press pause on the video and show you guys some Dennis the Menace. I'll leave this up for a full minute so you guys can get a good look. Dennis forming a rock and roll band. It's happening, Call. Thanks for the video, Call. Thanks for letting me show this. You know, that's right. We were always taught you inhale oxygen, you exhale carbon dioxide. It's mind-blowing to me that nitrogen is the predominant gas in the air that we breathe. That totally tells me we're in a different world. That's a mind blower of a Mandela effect. Okay. The second mind blower Mandela effect that I want to talk about tonight, this morning, that is, green eggs. Apparently, I think it's geese, not chicken, but there is such a thing as eggs with green colored yolk. In fact, if you Google it, you'll see red yolk, brown yolk, and green yolk. It's extraordinary. That means that the Dr. Seuss thing about green eggs and ham is for real. There's like for real green eggs in this world that we live in. Now, if that's not a Mandela effect, how in the world did we all go through life in grade school knowing about that book? Wouldn't teachers serve green eggs to the students for fun when they read that book? Or wouldn't at Easter time children request green eggs from their parents? Wouldn't it be a more popular thing in our culture Of course it would. Of course it would. There, I could even picture slumber parties where the theme of the party is green eggs and ham. Yeah, we're all going to have a sleepover, and for breakfast the next day, we're going to have my mom's going to make us all green eggs and ham. And we're going to watch that movie the night before. You know, I could just picture it being a part of our lives growing up. I mean, I don't know how rare these things are, but if they exist, they exist. I would imagine, again, they would be in the culture. This is a wild and crazy, between all these shifts that are going on, these reality shifts, and all the activity that we're seeing in the skies. We're going to, it does seem like we're going to see something biblical in our lifetimes, in our lives. Or not, or not. Things could just remain the same. Thank you for joining, people. I appreciate your company. Appreciate all of you. By the way, I mentioned a mixtape earlier. You know, I was thinking about how fun it is to make a mixtape. It's still just as fun as it always was. And you can see this. My Sony boombox from the mid 80s, which I got off eBay uh, about 10 years ago. It works beautifully. And I would actually recommend that to people. Pick yourself up a vintage boombox because they work better. Buy some blank tapes off eBay, or and spend some time making a mixtape. You guys, it occurs to me that no one ever outgrew making mixtapes. It was fun, and we loved doing it. We loved listening to the tapes and making the mixtapes. But that was an activity, like so many others, that was taken away from us as time moved on. You know, it was taken away from us. No one ever outgrew making a mixtape because it's so much fun, and it's a basic activity, kind of like sitting in the living room and watching TV. Just a basic fun activity. Um, yeah, as technology changed, the very activity of making a mixtape was deleted. It was taken away from us. To repeat the top story, as crazy as it sounds, there have been reported sightings, including a sighting by yours truly, of strange things in the skies like that look like wires or strings dangling down. Um, this has been reported in the early 70s and late 70s. Um, I saw the one that I reported on in the early 90s. And like I said earlier, the cat is out of the bag. I believe we're going to see more reportings of this. We're going to hear more people talking about this. Hey, David. Things are good. I hope things are good with you. Oh, by the way, Dave, Dallas, Texas does seem to be in a different spot. I don't know if you guys have heard of that Mandela effect. Dallas, Texas seems to have moved. To me, I would have thought it was a bit more southeast of where it is now. But that's not a big one for me. I never really looked at Texas maps much. But I like Texas. Buddy Holly is from Texas. The Everly brothers and Bobby Fuller are all from Texas. I still have some of my Velvet Underground bootlegs. There's nothing like a cassette. I was telling people earlier, Dave, uh, about the mixtape I'm working on. Um, David says, where's it at now? I'm not sure what you're referring to. If you're referring to the wire in the sky, it was there for one afternoon, one day. When it got dark that day, it was no longer visible in the dark, and the next day it was gone. So Nate's here. Welcome. Hope you're well, Nate. David, I talked earlier about the Mandela effect. The big ones for me right now is that oxygen is no longer the predominant gas in the air that we breathe. Nitrogen is now. The other big one for me was that green eggs are no longer a fictional thing. Green eggs are now something that's part of our world and always has been. They're not chicken eggs. I think they're goose eggs. I have to look into that. But we're going to call it a night, people. We're 52 minutes in. Thank you for watching. Thanks for hanging out. I'll be making another show sometime. I'll come at you. But I want to start working on music, some music things. Sorry, I'm kind of rambling. And yeah, those are interesting conversations, Four Jacks. Moneybags has been posting videos doing a where he's conversating with AI about the Mandela effect. Very interesting. I've seen all of them. Well, I think he's made a few. All right, people. Peace and love. Stay cool. Stay mellow. We'll talk to you next time.